Good morning, everyone. This is Jason Calvert yet again. Second part of assignment 2.1, Learning with Pros. And this one is about an in-person yin yoga class which I attended a week ago today. Actually, it was the 25th of August 2024. It was conducted at the Yoga Hub, my second home in Mount Hawthorn, and I attended this practice at 10:15 a.m. Last week. The teacher was Celeste Yang, very experienced classical yin yoga teacher. So yeah, that was the class. There was round about 24, 25 people in the class, so it was pretty big class. The class itself was a full body class, a physical body class, focusing mainly on the anatomy and all parts of the anatomy. And one of the reasons I chose these classes was because it was quite different to the online class. There was no mention of meridians or elements, although as we worked through it was clear to myself that what we were doing and what sort of areas we're working on. But the teacher herself didn't actually speak too much about those sorts of areas. We just went through the poses and followed what I thought was a logical sequence, moving from body part to body part. The students were welcomed into the class. There was mainly, I should say right from the outset, the group of people in here were they're very familiar to me, put it that way. They're there just about every Sunday, and that they know Celeste's style of teaching. But so she knows their body, and so there wasn't much in the way of welcoming in terms of, are you okay? Is your body okay today? Listen to your body. Have you got any injuries? Although there was one or two new faces, and she did ask if they were okay to do certain things and to be mindful of their body as they move through the practice. Individual needs, yeah, definitely they were catered for. Celeste is the type of teacher that moves around the class a lot. She as I'll explain later, she doesn't demonstrate the poses, and I think that's because most of us were quite experienced. She knows us, and we know the poses. However, individual needs were catered for with the newer people in particular, or if she saw someone that was probably had a limb out of sort of irregular, if you like, or hanging in space, she'd come along and put a block or a bolster under it. So in that respect, your individual needs were catered for. There was a very short grounding to start with. The grounding was, just standing on the mat. It's more akin to what I do a Mysore class in the mornings, and we do a grounding, standing just silently before we do our chant. There's no chant in the yin, but we were standing with our eyes closed, hands to heart center, feeling the weight of our body on the earth, just closing down, very short, round about a minute or so, before we moved into a few preparatory moves, some warm-ups. As I say, this was a full body type of yin practice. But I would say there was some emphasis on the shoulders, sort of crushed wing, etc., looking through the fire element working through the heart meridian, spleen meridians open, meridian opening up the shoulders and back and front of the shoulders. So to start with, our preparation involved taking a strap overhead, sort of lift the arms overhead and push them down behind you and back overhead and to the front, and sort of moving a little bit laterally with the strap, just trying to open up the shoulders. And I thought that was appropriate for what was to follow, which was some shoulder type of a few different sequences with the shoulder. So in that respect, it was that was a good preparation for what was to come. And I should say, probably didn't mention right from the very start in the description, I mean, we worked right through from the feet with toe squats and dorsal type stretches with the feet, with the spleen type meridians right through all sort of aspects of spinal movement, lateral, forward, back, everything. And that was sort of in line with the hips and legs as well. It was a full body type of exercise. As I say, with an emphasis, emphasis on the shoulders. They took center stage to some respect. The shoulders, I would say, took center stage, and the warm-up reflected that, but it wasn't all shoulders, so that was the target area, although all areas of the body were worked. So the theme was full body, and it just, I guess it showed as we moved from body part to body part, from meridian line to meridian line, sort of element to element. It was basically a full body. So I guess that there was no one theme, although you could say that the theme was the entire body. And there was logic behind the sequencing. You did tend to, although we opened the shoulders to start with, and the preparation there was logic there. When we hit the mat, we started to open the back body with some cat-cows and those sorts of things, and then moved through opening up the back of the body through some forward bends and a bit of compression on the spine with sphinx to go the other way. So there was logic in that respect, sort of extension and compression in that regard. So yeah, definitely, and it did work for me. I felt that I was warmed up nicely both ways, so it worked. As I say, through the extension and also the flexion. So yes, it did work for me, and I thought there was logic there. The transitions, I guess the transitions were in line with a yin class, where you do a pose and then you come into a rebound. So if we're doing a forward fold, a caterpillar, if you like, we would come back in a seated position, hands behind us, pushing the chest out, dropping the head, and sort of stretching the other way. Or if we're doing something with the hips, we would maybe sit up, do some windshield wipers. And a couple of times we also done like a mini shavasana after the sphinx, drawing a knee up to the side and just lying flat. There was plenty of rebounds, and the transitions were the rebounds. Really, you just move from one pose to the next via a rebound, and then moving on from there. Instructions were really clear and easy to follow. Celeste is a very experienced teacher, as I've mentioned, someone I really look up to and I've learned a lot off over the years. And she's got such a really nice, quiet, soothing voice, and very supportive throughout the practice, and very descriptive in what she's telling you throughout what we're doing and why we're doing it, etc. And she's got a sense of humour as well, which I like. We have a laugh and have fun along the way. So the instructions and the tone of voice and everything were really good, really easy to follow. I'd say a mix of technical and descriptive. She would go in and tell you technically why we were doing things and basically describe the sensations and feelings that we hope to gain, and even though we're all different, and we're going to have different sensations and things are going to be different for each of us. She described what we were trying to achieve, and so technical and descriptive, not so much poetic, I'd say. Easy to follow, really easy to follow. You didn't need any visual support at all. And as I say, the tone of voice allowed the class to flow nicely. And I'd say her sense of humour as well. There's a few people sort of groaning there, and she would... at one point, someone said, "Oh, God," and she says, "Yes, well, I'm God in this class," in a very what would I say, a very soft, soothing way. She's got a way about her. She can make you laugh, which is important, I think, in any classes. As I say, it was purely verbal. She doesn't practice alongside of us, and I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that most of us are experienced, and we sort of know the practice. We know what's to come. It is a general, as she calls it, it's a general reset, and it's basically follows the same line. We might do a similar thing to achieve the same thing, but we basically know the sequence and how to follow. So in that respect, there's probably no reason for her to do the practice, although she did at times assist some of the newer faces. It's all right coming into a class and looking sideways and seeing what the other person's doing, but if you can't get into the pose, she's only too happy to assist and to move down next to them and assist them to get into the pose or offer an option. Not so much demonstrating the poses, as I've said, just assisting those that need it. Lots of variations and modifications offered. I mean, because I was able to do something yesterday or last week, even though I know the sequence and the practice pretty well, I may not be able to do it today. So in that respect, she's only too happy to offer a modification or some form of assistance with a blanket or a block. So lots of modifications and options, variations offered, which was really good. Didn't really interfere with the practice. I think any help or suggestion that you might need a block or a bolster today, that's not an interference. That's a help. It's no way is it a hindrance. So I thought any changes, modifications or variations that were required were totally appropriate and handled appropriately. She'd done that very well. Plenty of space for Shavasana. I think the last on the online on the online video that I posted for my online practice, there was only 3 minutes. So it would have been 6 or 7 minutes here for Shavasana, and it was guided. It guided to start with, and again, it was appropriate because when you think about it, I think the teacher, in my opinion, my humble opinion, the teacher moves you into the pose and assists you to and directs you and encourage you to find your edge and not to go past the edge, and to stay with it. And in terms of Shavasana, she assisted us into the pose, the Shavasana pose, and then allowed us to drift off and find our own way. So it was both guided and silent in some respects, guided in and silent for the rest of it. And I think that was appropriate because that's the way she operates. She operates a class that way, guides you into the pose and then lets you find your way, and reminds you throughout the pose that what we're trying to achieve in terms of not pushing in a yang manner, but backing off and finding your edge and letting time, body weight, gravity, etc., do the job for you. So very appropriate and in line with the rest of the practice. The Shavasana did follow. Following Shavasana, I should say, was a brief meditation, and there was no direction here. She just asked us to come into the space. I should say she did focus a little bit on pranayama throughout, just box breath more than anything else. Samariti, she did talk about the regulatory, the breath and directing the breath to the area, but there was no emphasis on any type of breath apart from just a general balanced breath. But in terms of the ending, after Shavasana came meditation, and not so much a pranayama session. So we had a short meditation, and as I say, no real direction there, just encouraging us to listen to the body, to enjoy the reset that we'd just been through, enabling the reset to service for the rest of the day and until the next time we meet, etc. So yeah, very nice, very relaxing, and I thought a really good way of finishing the practice. Highlights, well, as I probably is becoming apparent, I like Celeste very much. I like her teaching style. The teaching style altogether was good. I love her soothing voice. I really enjoy her practice, her full body practice. So the three highlights for me were probably the soothing nature of her voice. The full body practice I also enjoy. It is a really good reset, I find. I guess one of the things that I always take from Celeste's class is her time management. We tend to go through quite a bit, and there's never any rushing or never pushing with it. We get it done, and I never feel like we've got to shift on from here because we've been in here 2 or 3 minutes and we need to move on. There's never that way. Our time management is excellent, and just the relaxing nature of the practice itself in general is really good, really nice. Things to avoid, well, there's no stipulation that we talk about meridians and elements, because I like that sort of stuff, and I'm trying to learn and incorporate it. It's something that I like, but in my opinion, I would probably move more towards that and not so much avoid anything in a class, but a different direction. As I've gone through my yin training with you guys, I've learned more and more about elements and meridians, and I could see throughout Celeste's practice that where she was focusing, and she was focusing on that. She may not have mentioned the elements or the meridians, but the focus definitely was on them areas, and I'm now in a position to appreciate that a lot more because of my training with you guys. So thank you for that. But she doesn't talk a lot about that, and that's not something that is a mistake or something I would avoid, but I would probably mention those sorts of things throughout the practice, and maybe have more of a focus on a couple of elements throughout the practice rather than do a full body. But that's me, and for what was done here in this practice, it was a full body practice. So, I mean, you would be hard pressed to mention all 12 meridians and trace them all. We'd be there all day. So, yeah, I can understand why that was done. But thoroughly enjoyed the class. As I say, I've been to the class several times and like the teacher, like the class, and another really good learning curve, and a lot that I can incorporate into my teaching. So thank you very much, and stay tuned for the next episode, which will be working with friends, and I'll get to that as soon as possible. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Bye now.